If your tomato plants are growing taller every day but producing flowers that never become fruit, you're not alone. Many gardeners assume they need more water or more sunlight, but in reality, the problem often starts beneath the soil. Tomatoes don't need the same nutrients throughout their entire life. Feeding them the wrong fertilizer at the wrong stage can encourage lush leaves while preventing flowers from developing into healthy tomatoes. June is one of the most important months for tomato plants. In many regions, plants move rapidly from leafy growth into flowering and fruit production. A simple adjustment to your fertilization schedule during this period can dramatically improve fruit set, reduce blossom drop, and help your plants stay productive all season. Today, we'll walk through a simple June fertilization schedule based on each stage of tomato growth. Whether your plants are just getting established or already covered with blossoms, you'll know exactly what to feed, when to feed it, and why it works. The first few weeks after transplanting are all about building roots. Many beginners make the mistake of feeding young tomato plants with high nitrogen fertilizer immediately. While nitrogen certainly helps leaves grow quickly, too much of it during this stage can create weak plants that struggle later. Instead, your goal should be helping the root system spread deep into the soil. Healthy roots are like a strong foundation for a house. The stronger the roots become now, the more water and nutrients the plant can absorb when flowering begins. A balanced fertilizer with moderate nitrogen and slightly higher phosphorus works well during this stage. You can also improve the soil naturally by mixing in compost, worm castings, or well-aged manure. These organic materials slowly release nutrients while improving soil structure. Water deeply, but not too frequently. Allow the upper layer of soil to dry slightly before watering again. This encourages roots to grow downward instead of staying near the surface. By the end of this stage, your tomato plant should have a thick main stem, healthy green leaves, and vigorous new growth. Once your tomato plants become established, they begin growing incredibly fast. Every day you'll notice taller stems, more branches, and larger leaves. This is the stage where many gardeners become excited because the plants look beautiful, but appearances can be deceiving. If you continue feeding too much nitrogen during this phase, the plant may keep producing leaves instead of preparing for flowers. Think of it this way. A tomato plant has a limited amount of energy. If all that energy goes into producing foliage, less energy remains for flowering later. At this point, continue using a balanced fertilizer, but begin reducing nitrogen slightly. Potassium becomes increasingly important because it strengthens stems and prepares the plant for future fruit production. Calcium is another nutrient that should never be ignored. Maintaining consistent calcium availability helps reduce blossom end rot later in the season. Organic gardeners often add crushed eggshell powder, gypsum, or calcium-rich compost to the soil. Healthy plants during this stage should remain dark green, not excessively lush, and develop thick, sturdy stems capable of supporting heavy fruit clusters. Now comes the stage that determines your harvest. Small yellow blossoms begin opening along the stems. This is when many gardeners accidentally sabotage fruit production. Some continue applying the exact same fertilizer they've been using since planting. Unfortunately, tomato plants now have very different nutritional needs. As flowering begins, reduce nitrogen even further. Instead, increase phosphorus and potassium. Phosphorus supports flower formation, while potassium improves flower quality and increases the chances that each blossom successfully develops into fruit. Avoid overwatering during this period. Too much moisture combined with excessive nitrogen often causes blossoms to drop before pollination can occur. If you're growing tomatoes in containers, fertilize more frequently using smaller amounts because nutrients wash out faster after watering. Organic options such as bone meal, banana peel compost, wood ash in moderation, and fishbone fertilizer can provide valuable phosphorus and potassium. At this stage, healthy flowers should remain attached to the plant and gradually develop into tiny green tomatoes within several days after pollination. That transformation is one of the clearest signs your fertilization schedule is working. Your tomato plant has now reached the most important stage of its life. Bright yellow flowers cover the branches, and everything looks promising. But don't celebrate just yet. This is exactly when many gardeners unknowingly make the biggest mistake of the season. They keep feeding the same fertilizer they've used since planting. Unfortunately, what worked a month ago may now be preventing fruit from forming. At full bloom, your tomato plant shifts its energy away from growing leaves and toward reproduction. Its priority is turning flowers into tomatoes. This means potassium becomes the star nutrient. Potassium helps move sugars and water throughout the plant, strengthens flower stems, improves pollen viability, and increases the chances that each flower develops into fruit instead of falling off. Phosphorus continues to support healthy flowering, while excessive nitrogen should be avoided whenever possible. A fertilizer with a higher potassium ratio is often the best choice during this period. Organic gardeners can use kelp meal, wood ash in small amounts, banana compost, or liquid comfort fertilizer as natural potassium sources. Weather also plays a major role. If daytime temperatures become extremely hot or nights remain unusually warm, some flowers may still drop naturally. That's completely normal. However, healthy, well-fed plants usually retain far more blossoms than nutrient-deficient plants. Another simple trick is watering consistently. Large swings between very dry soil and soaking wet soil create stress, making blossoms much more likely to fall before fruit begins to grow. Think of your tomato plant like an athlete preparing for a championship. At this stage, steady nutrition and stable conditions matter much more than rapid growth. Congratulations! If you've reached this point, your fertilization schedule is paying off. Tiny green tomatoes are beginning to replace the flowers. Now the plant faces an entirely new challenge. Instead of producing blossoms, it must enlarge hundreds of rapidly growing fruits while continuing to support fresh flowers higher up the vine. This requires a steady supply of potassium along with smaller amounts of phosphorus, calcium, and magnesium. One mistake many gardeners make is increasing fertilizer every week, hoping for larger tomatoes. In reality, overfeeding often causes salt buildup in the soil, weak roots, and poor fruit quality. Instead, feed lightly but consistently. Tomatoes prefer regular nutrition rather than occasional heavy doses. Continue removing damaged leaves near the bottom of the plant to improve airflow. Better air circulation reduces humidity around the stems and helps prevent fungal diseases that often appear during warm summer weather. Keep checking soil moisture daily. Developing fruit contains a tremendous amount of water, and inconsistent watering can cause tomatoes to crack as they expand. Healthy fruit should gradually increase in size while remaining firm, smooth, and evenly colored. This stage rewards patience more than anything else. By now, your tomato plants are carrying clusters of large, colorful fruit. The harvest has begun. Even though many tomatoes are ripening, your work isn't finished. The plant is still producing new flowers at the top, while ripening older fruit below. This means it needs continuous, but moderate, nutrition. Avoid the temptation to apply large amounts of fertilizer all at once. Too much feeding late in the season often encourages fresh leafy growth instead of ripening existing tomatoes. Continue supplying potassium-rich fertilizer every couple of weeks according to the product directions or through light organic applications. Remove ripe tomatoes regularly. Harvesting encourages the plant to redirect its energy toward developing the remaining fruit. Support heavy branches with stakes, cages, or soft ties to prevent stems from snapping under the weight of large tomato clusters. Continue watering deeply during dry weather, especially during heat waves. Healthy plants receiving balanced nutrition often continue producing tomatoes until the first frost in cooler climates or for many additional weeks in warm regions. A well-planned June fertilization schedule doesn't just produce bigger harvests. It creates stronger plants that remain productive throughout the growing season. Growing healthy tomato plants isn't about using the strongest fertilizer or feeding more often. It's about giving the right nutrients at the right time. In the early weeks, focus on building a strong root system. As the plant enters rapid growth, encourage sturdy stems and balanced foliage without overloading it with nitrogen. When the first flowers appear, gradually shift toward phosphorus and potassium to support healthy blossoms and improve fruit set. Once tomatoes begin forming, maintain steady nutrition, consistent watering, and good airflow to help every fruit develop properly. Finally, during harvest season, continue feeding lightly while picking ripe tomatoes regularly to keep the plant producing new fruit. Remember, empty flowers are rarely caused by bad luck. They're often the result of nutrition, watering, temperature, or timing. By following each growth stage instead of using the same fertilizer all season long, You'll give your tomato plants the best possible chance to produce baskets of healthy, flavorful tomatoes. Gardening is never about perfection. It's about understanding what your plants need today, not what they needed last month. Small adjustments made at the right moment often create the biggest harvests. If you found this June fertilization schedule helpful, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more simple gardening tips based on natural growing methods. Every week, we share practical advice to help you grow healthier vegetables, stronger gardens, and bigger harvests using easy techniques anyone can follow. If you have a favorite tomato fertilizer or a natural gardening trick that works in your garden, share it in the comments below. Your experience might help another gardener grow an even better harvest this season. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next gardening guide.